there you go. Is it recording? Yeah, it is. Ah, staged. Staged humor. Staged humor. We gotta have some sort of intro. And this is the only way we can come up with different intros. Alright. Hello, everyone. So let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to be studying today. Someone suggested I should study some environment stuff. So the book that I'll be studying will be The Dream Worlds by Hans Bacher. It's a great book. Bam. Is that good? Does it look good? Okay. Things you will need. Things you will need. Sketchbook. Some paper to put underneath your sketchbook. Sharpie. Pencil. Big Sharpie. Getting better. Faster. Efficienter. So let's go ahead and get started. The first part of the study is going to be practicing your basic hand drawing skills. So let's go right into that right now. So first, let's do a few circles, because I always think drawing circles is important, you know. But we're going to do something different with these circles. You know, you can tell that I've been doing a lot of practice. I'm having my teenage son do these, like he's trying to get into drawing too, which is great. And, you know, having a father who does it professionally helps, obviously. But, you know, I'm one of those people that don't want to tell him to do it. I want him to do it because he wants to. So let's just fill in another row. Oops, that circle was off. So here's a second. There's two things we're going to do. We'll just do the first two rows, and then we'll move on to a different view. But basically, what we want to do is draw the circle again, right? But try to really stay. You can see this is going to be much harder. And what this is going to do is practice your ability to be consistent. And see, this is something that I'm probably going to be struggling with. Again, draw from your elbow. If your elbow doesn't work, draw from your shoulders. This is hard. Alright. And then once you do that, then the next goal is to draw a directional halfway mark, basically. You're basically going to cut this in half. You're going to say this is cut in half, and this is cut in half. So basically you create kind of like a center point. So we try to draw a sphere. And so I'm going to just do the first row for this demonstration and try to do different angles. If you have a hard time doing with one angle, try to keep doing that angle for a few circles and see if that helps you. Now, this is just important motor skills that will help you draw better. And so that's the first set of circles that I'm going to do. And so we're going to go to a different view so you can see it from a little bit more straight on. So here's a different point of view, guys. So let's go ahead and just do a few rows, and then we'll move on to the studying of dream worlds. I think it's important that you guys recognize that this is something that you do. You guys see that shadow? What was that shadow? Who was that, mister?
Shadow.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. It'd be funny if there isn't a shadow. I just thought like it.
Yeah, okay.
No, when you leaned over, there was definitely a shadow. Anyway, so when you guys are drawing these circles, and see, this is a little bit easier for me too because I'm not worried about the camera angle as much. And so you want to try to make these as best circles as you can. I mean, right now my circles are kind of oblong, but you want them to be confident. You don't want to just kind of sketch them in. You don't want to do this. You know, you just want to be confident. And then again, I'm going to go ahead and do these again, just real fast. Making sound effects absolutely helps. If you're in the middle of a classroom and you're making sound effects, just look at the person straight in the eye and make the sound effect even louder while you're not looking at your sketchbook as you're drawing the circles. And they'll be real weirded out, and you can go back to your circle of interest. Oh, see, that one's like, you can't even tell, but we can do that. We can go to the border. Whoops. So hopefully you guys can enjoy that, and good luck to you guys' journeys and this sketchbook circles. And this is all I want you guys want to do for now. I think this is very important, very valuable, and a lot of fun, and it's a good practice. So let's go on to Dream worlds. Woo! Woo! So Dream Worlds is a great book. For those of you who have not, who is interested in doing more environment stuff, this book is not only great for that, it's also a great book on illustrations and composition. And really when you're doing environments, because unlike a character, characters are relatively, you know, like a micro version of a composition. This is really where it's at in terms of compositions. I mean, look at this. This is really sweet. And actually, using Copic markers would be great for this to study. But right now, I'm not trying to study specifically stuff like, you know, the values of things. I'm trying to study, you know, actual composition and shapes that are in perspective. Oh yeah, look at this. Look at this. Stuff like this is going to be great. So let's go ahead and look through the first few things. Now, this is one of my favorite things to kind of do, is like understand different kinds of establishing shots. This is very cinematic type stuff, you know. And there's a lot of great stuff in here. You know, like the person who drew that is amazing. However they did that was pretty cool. Very classic, very epic. But I won't be able to do a lot of these things tonally, but graphically I will be. And you can go through here, it's just a lot of Disney screenshots, you know, The Little Bear, Pocahontas, Aladdin, all of these classics. And here's like a really simple version of like the dialogue that's said in like movies, like how they handle it. So you'll learn a lot about like just staging and all that great stuff, but let's study some stuff. So what I want to study is kind of like scale, something like this, where like the castle in the background is very, very large, feels very epic, where, you know, the things in the foreground are helping that look large. What is making it look that large? So I'm going to push this off to the side. So you guys might not be able to see it perfectly because of the camera angle, but it's fine. You guys get the point. So one of the first things I'm going to do, because I have a pencil which I can draw with, but I like to draw with Sharpie almost always, and use the pencil as more of like a helping guide. I like to use it like as a, you know, maybe I don't want to mess up my perspective right now, so I'll just draw like a really clean perspective. Or maybe I want like less detail. I want like a very overlaid type of value, so that way I can draw in with the Sharpie. But if I really want to learn the hard way, then I use the Sharpie straight up. And I'm not going to even use the skinny one, right? Can I achieve scale using this fat one? You know, the one that gets you high too. So first thing I'm going to do is just I'm going to create a composition and see what I can do. So one of the first mistakes that I see when people try to handle like a detail like this, so they see this right here, right? And they think, well, it's a castle with towers, so they go over here, and then they draw towers, and then they draw it like to this scale, and then they draw the trees to that scale too, and it's like this is so inaccurate, you know, and they don't even realize it because they're like, well, I have all the elements, right, and they're all in the right positions, but the size is just completely off, you know. And if you don't like measure things with like you know, there's a great way of measuring using like in figure drawing, like using your pencil, like going over here, measuring it like literally there, and trying to match it to like set up a scale system by saying, okay, I'm going to do half of that size because I'm doing, or I'm going to do like a third of that size because I'm drawing it a third of the size of my sketchbook. So whatever I do here, I cut it into thirds, and then that's kind of the measurement. Or you can just try to eyeball it like I usually do. And so I recognize, first thing that I look at is like the spatial reasoning with everything. I'm looking at these small towers. Like, how tiny are they? If I had to really guess, like, okay, so let's take a moment here. Like, this is as big as my finger, and like the thickness of this. And one of these towers is not even, like, the whole top of the tower is the thickness of my fingers. And there's like 4 steeples that are on the top of this. So that would mean like this would have to be like so tiny that I wouldn't even be able to do it with this marker. So let's go ahead and try though. And why don't I just go with the smaller brush? Well, it's not so much about going with the smaller brush, it's trying to understand how to achieve scale with like a true understanding, no matter what size brush you have. Obviously, if I had a smaller brush, it would be more reasonable. But like, this is allowing me to understand my own measurements even in my brain. And like really being sensitive to that and recognizing when I've gone too far. And so you can tell the difference, right, immediately between the original tower, which I'm like allowing the full width of my brush dictate what I think scale is, versus controlling my width. Control is what you want. You don't want guesses. This bridge is gonna be freaking hard. Oh boy. Oh boy. Alright, there we go. Don't you sigh with laughter. Cameraman can't control himself. It's affecting your camera angles? The shakiness? I'm not helping. Okay, now we can try to worry about the trees, in which we can kind of use the strategy of using the broader strokes to get the larger scope. And look, I can get some free texture with the Sharpie. I didn't even realize. And then, since I feel like I successfully handle that, I will go ahead and cheat with these branches. And I'm not going to draw every branch exactly. I'm just trying to get the idea of what the branches are doing. There's a lot. That's why I don't want to sit here all day. I think I have a good sense of scale now. Yeah, you got like snowflakes, whatever. We can just kind of apply them. And we can start to crosshatch the fog. Create a gradient using crosshatches. This is nothing that you guys concern yourself with. This is just me noodling. What you want is that, like, the first aspects of it, understanding the true sense of scale. Like being able to understand that at an accurate level. No matter how thick your brush is, because people tend to just do it like whatever. I'm just gonna draw it however, and it's a mess. So here's another good one, like these books. Holy crap, that's gonna be hard. So let's go ahead and try to do that. And then we'll call it a night, yes. So the next thing I'm going to do is try to draw this in perspective. And I'm not going to draw the perspective grids, there's no time for that. And I'm just going to block in kind of the negative shapes real fast. I'm not worried about what details there. I'm worried about these books. There's a chair there, but I missed it. It's fine. This is me practicing something entirely different. You can ignore this. I just thought I might as well double down. You know what, I'm just going to block the chair out. The chair is very tiny in scope, so I must reflect that. Okay. So now I have the stage, which is pretty much right here. So I'm going to pay attention to a few things. Again, just going in there and be like, blah, 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 is not intelligent. Like, what you want to do is pay attention to, and let me bring this down so that I can see better too. What you want to pay attention to is like the thickness of these railings or these like dividers, and also the thickness between the space between them. And there's something that's always very interesting to me that happens in perspective naturally. Like, generally, if there's two things, once you find the first two, or better yet, here's a better way of thinking about it. Once you find like the last two, that's what it is. You can cut it in half. And then cut it in half again, and you're getting closer to perspective. And then you have another, you can kind of start to gauge that this is, now it's making this not feel like its perspective is the height. And the height is almost the same, like cutting it in half. So that's just kind of like a little know-how of, there's a little bit of nugget of information that I have in my brain already that I can try to use. So the first thing is I'll try to find the first divider. And I'm going to, again, do it all graphically. And pay attention to the width. Now I'm going to try to find the last divider, which I think is like right on the corner of the page. And the width. And the height. So it's probably something there. So that's all going to be helpful so that I can try, and I can tell that it's a little off-center, at least this drawing, but I don't think that's necessarily intentional. I think that the artist might have drew it unintentionally offset. But it's okay. And see, that's already helping me feel like this perspective is correct. And then this needs to be a little bit thicker, and then what I'm going to do is have to make this thicker so that they all match. And then I'm going to have to make it look like it's receding. Now, how am I going to do the books? Like, what's my strategy there? If you notice, there's a lot of dark books. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to draw those dark books. And I'm not going to draw it exactly as I see it there. I'm just going to be inspired by that. And see if that's a good strategy. And I could fail here. Like, this could be tremendously awful and not work out exactly as I was hoping. But I'm going to draw each book. Each of these lines is going to represent a book. And I think this is working. This is making me feel like I can start seeing the scale a little bit better. It might not be 100% accurate, but I can start to see how small these books really are. Like, they could be even smaller, probably. You know, and there's like a small little divider. This is going to be hard to draw. Shift, click. Photoshops. And so I feel like this is like actually a pretty good success. But we need a scale in the foreground. So I'm going to draw kind of the books in the foreground. And I was trying to hint at it a little bit earlier. And that's a little bit helpful. And then I'm going to go ahead and use this thinner brush to kind of try to find some shadows of these books. Try to get smaller as I go further. And this is pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this. So this might look like garbage, this whole area right here, but that's not the task. As you guys can learn, or as you guys have learned from watching my videos thus far, it's about learning, like, what are you trying to learn? What are you trying to get a heads up on? And that's what you should focus on. Stay focused. Don't get distracted with things that are not going your way. Stay focused if the things you're trying to achieve are not going your way. Like, this went well. I think I'm starting to really understand a little bit better. And so then I'm going to move forward and say that this is a success. I have a sense of what I can do. Like, the way that I see scale is almost always, when I think it's small, almost half, like shrink it halfway down, even smaller, you know, double the shrinkage. And it almost always works out. And I feel like that's, like, my brain, for whatever reason, is calibrated at a certain size. And then whenever I cut it in half, it almost feels way more accurate. So, anyways, I hope this helps you guys out. Thanks for watching these videos. Please suggest any more things you would love to see me do in the comments below, and we'll definitely try to get to them. Alright guys, peace out.